I nearly passed away at 26 years old. I was losing my vision. Bowel movements were going nuts. I was just sweating through the night, cold sweat, shivering, losing weight. My story was a life-threatening case of diagnosed both Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. How is that possible? Because different doctors had different opinions. UCLA, Mayo Clinic, Cedars-Sinai had different opinions on what was going on. Think of it this way. What if you weren't sick? And what if we were just talking about longevity? What if you just wanted to add 10 years onto your life? I'm going to let you in on a little secret.
Welcome back to another episode here at Keep It Clear. And Cris and I are super pumped today because we actually, Cris, in the 4 seasons we've been doing this podcast, we actually haven't covered this topic.
Never.
So I think this is going to be really great because so many people suffer with Crohn's colitis, IBS, IBD, and it can be life-threatening for so many people. And the symptoms, if you're not familiar with it, it can be horrendous. That's why I'm so pumped that today we get to hang out with Dane Johnson, holistic nutritionist, founder and CEO of Crohn's Colitis Lifestyle. And his story is absolutely incredible. When I saw his photos of his before and his after, like, Dane, you look like a different man.
People tell me that. They're like, that's not you? I'm like, no, that's me. Because there's been others who've done that too. And it's devastatingly crazy, bipolar.
And because you experience this, we're going to get to your story, how you almost died from dealing with this. You actually created the SHIELD program, which is an integrative system that's really merging that clinical nutritional, the emotional healing, the lifestyle medicine to really change lives all over the world.
Yes, I'm excited to dive in and really help empower everyone dealing with any IBS or IBD. What is it? What's the difference? What are some of the root issues we were able to find, we were able to treat to help thousands of people around the world? And so this is something I'm really passionate about. I just want to take a moment to dedicate this time to anyone who's sick, chronically sick, really stuck. Healing is possible. I'll make a stand for you. Hopefully today I can use every ounce of my power to help you find real results. And thank you, Katie and Cris, for having me.
We're excited because, like I said, we haven't done this topic and a lot of people suffer with this. And unless you're in this world or you've dealt with, Crohn's colitis, IBD, all of these different issues, you have no idea how impactful it can be on your life and how awful the suffering can be. So before we get into your story, I would just like for you to kind of share, what's the differences between them all?
So inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, versus irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. Now, a large percent of people around North America, Canada, US, have IBS. It's a estimate, I think, around 15, 20%, somewhere in there, generally speaking, someone can have some form of IBS. This can be IBS diarrhea, IBS constipation. Symptoms can be bloating, cramping, gas, diarrhea, urgency, food sensitivity, skin reactions, tons of gas, GERD, heartburn, esophagus issues. So it can be detrimental to your lifestyle where you eat spicy food, you have some dairy, or you have some gluten, or you have too much bread. You either feel like you're 6 months pregnant, or you feel like you need to go take a nap, or you feel like you need a restroom every 5 seconds. You're scared of going out or being in a long car ride or being in a bus ride without a bathroom. So it's potentially humiliating, shameful, scary. You feel like you can't date. You feel like you can't live. You're scared of going to any restaurant. You have to be picky about everything. You don't feel like you fit in as much. It affects every part of your life, and it's a hidden disease, And so the difference with IBS and IBD is really the severity and the finding of inflammation that causes a cascade of other life problems. So with inflammatory bowel disease, the two most predominant are Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. You're talking about chronic inflammation that the doctors don't know why it's happening. And it can lead to cancers. It can be life-threatening. You're almost always going to be told to be taking lifelong medications. IBS, that's not true. It's not life-threatening. You aren't usually told to take lifelong medications or immunosuppressants, steroids, antibiotics, like you are with IBD. The inflammation can be seen in maybe an IBD antibody panel. It could be seen in an endoscopy, colonoscopy, and a stool analysis, checking things like calprotectin or eosinophil activation protein or other types of inflammatory markers. So it's really diagnosed through finding that inflamed tissue. And that is more likely to get lots of blood in the stool, lots of mucus, more severe of the IBS, more severe bloating, gas, urgency, diarrhea. For me, I had 25 bloody bowel movements a day. And I know that sounds impossible, but yes, it can happen, and it can happen for months at a time. Having bowel movements through the night, is severely reactive to food, more likely to get arthritic pains in the body, more likely to get skin reactions like psoriasis, eczema. I had chronic cystic acne. I was covered in acne at about 22, 23 years old, and I didn't have any at 19, just so to give you a comparison. all over my chest, all over my back. My back looked like a landmine of acne. My body was completely overwhelmed. So those were all potential side effects of your gut being extremely inflamed. And you also are more likely to have more severe leaky gut, where toxins and undigested food particles can leak into your bloodstream, causing severe issues, also related to skin, hair issues, and bioavailable nutrient issues. So people with IBD are more likely to be severely anemic, so low hemoglobin, electrolyte deficiencies, and people with IBD are more likely to have to get surgery. So a total colectomy to remove your colon or parts of your ileum can be removed with IBD. So those are the big differences between IBS and IBD. I do want to say that a diagnosis is subjective. So if a doctor said, no, you don't have IBD, another one can say you do. And if a doctor says, you have IBD, it's the end of the world, that can be, another doctor can change it. So a diagnosis is a person's opinion. Continue to get multiple opinions. Continue to look at lab work like a stool analysis if you haven't done it, and a urine analysis if you haven't done it, because it can tell you a lot more about what's going on.
It's incredible, right? Is Cris and I, we see this with our own clients all the time where, they're told, oh, yep, you have IBS-C. That's your diagnosis. You're stuck with it forever. You just need to take Miralax every day. And it's so frustrating from that holistic perspective that this is, what they're being told. So I would love to know, Dane, what was really your story? Because we know that a lot of the holistic practitioners, they're here in a practitioner because they suffered in the past and that the medical system had failed them at some point in time. So I would love to hear your story.
As I tell my story to everyone out there listening, look, just because mine was so crazy doesn't mean yours is going to be. If me or Katie or Cris can do anything about it, you will not have to go down the road I went down. I think I went down that road so I could lead. I tried to turn the worst pain, the worst thing that ever happened to me, into a great purpose, which is why I'm here and I've been doing this for 10 or 12 years. And so, my story was a life-threatening case of diagnosed both Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. How is that possible? Because different doctors had different opinions. UCLA, Mayo Clinic, Cedars-Sinai had different opinions on what was going on. It started off left-sided colitis, then Crohn's disease, then ulcerative colitis with gastritis, then Crohn's disease. And so I started calling it Crohn's colitis. I had widespread chronic inflammation in my bowel that no one really knew what was going on. I was on prednisone for 4 or 5 years. I was on Remicade, Entyvio, 6-MP, methotrexate. I was on TPN feeding tube. I had to go on an antiviral chemotherapy to save my life in the hospital in December 2014. So just at 11 years, we're coming up right now. We just passed. So I took every medication possible. So I want to say that I'm not this against the grain guy. When I was a kid, I just wanted my life back. And how many of you can just relate with that? I was 22 years old. I wasn't this guy on a mission to fight the system, I just wanted my life back. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I went from 180, 185 pounds, 6'2", down to 120 pounds. And I couldn't walk. I couldn't eat. It didn't matter what diet I was on. If I had a sip of water, I was running to the bathroom. And I had been on prednisone, 40 milligrams, tapered down, 40 milligrams, tapered down for 4 years. And misalamine wasn't doing anything, and Canasa wasn't doing anything, and Remicade wasn't working enough, and I didn't want to be on lifelong biologics. And I was reading, I have to get these infusions, every 2 months or every month for the rest of my life, and they might increase chances of tuberculosis or lymphoma. And my parents didn't know what to do about this. We had no background with this. We were just some regular people from Virginia, never heard of this. And it was just a nightmare. And I know people out there may be dealing with less forms of this nightmare of no matter, I try these diets or I try these supplements and nothing works and I just don't feel good. And that was me for a long time. And I was the guy where it didn't work. I'd read a story of someone healing and then I'd say, that's never going to work for me. It didn't work for me. I would do bone broth diets. I went on a fruitarian diet. I did carnivore. I was making my own homemade yogurts and kefir. I was trying fasting. I tried a lot of different stuff that a lot of naturopath doctors said to me that was great information, but I was too severe. I didn't have the mindset. I was too young. I wasn't empowered enough. I was too depressed. My nervous system was a wreck. And I had multiple root issues. So when your root issues layer in, that creates more of a severe case where you just can't go off gluten and alcohol and think it's going to get better. Some of us can. Some of us have the nervous system, the immune system, the microbiome health, the genetic code, the epigenetics, where you can do that and it will get results. That was not me. So by the time I was 26, I had to drive myself to the hospital because I couldn't see. I was losing my vision. Bowel movements were going nuts. I was just sweating through the night, cold sweat, shivering, losing weight, extreme energy. I drove myself to the hospital. I ended up staying there for 5 weeks. and I was on TPN feeding tube. I nearly died in December. I drove myself early to mid-November, and then checked myself out right before Christmas. Once I became aware, because I lost consciousness in there. My dad flew out, my sisters flew out, my mom flew out. They took turns sleeping on the floor next to me in the hospital and changing a steel pan under my butt to catch the water and blood that was coming out 20 times a day. And I was on 200 milligrams of infused prednisone. I was on about three different types of antibiotics, IV, and then I was on TPN feeding tube, and then I was on Dilaudid, 3 grams. If you know, that's what you give to someone who's dying of cancer. That's 7 times stronger than morphine. Yeah, I nearly passed away at 26 years old, and I turned 27 in November in that hospital, and my mom helped save my life. My mom became the doctor. She called every doctor I'd seen over the last 4 or 5 years. There was a doctor in Florida who said, I think it's cytomegalovirus. I think the immunosuppressants, antibiotics are weakening his immune system, weakening his microbiome. The virus is taking over his body, and they haven't found it, and they're not going to find it. And if you don't get this kid this antiviral, he's going to die. We put that doctor on the phone with the ER doctor. Then we had to call the insurance, okay? Because I didn't have good insurance. And we had to plead with them, like, if you don't give this kid, I mean, it was $5,000 for the sample, just understanding what kind of these drugs cost. They gave me the sample, and I woke up. Because the week before that, I was gone. I was unconscious. I was hallucinating. My mom tells me stories of what I was saying. It's not fun, so we don't talk about it much. But I woke up, and then 2 days later, it was obvious the doctors were no idea what to do with me at that point. So I checked myself out of the hospital, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't really eat much. And my mom took turns sleeping on my couch in Santa Monica, California, for about 3 months until I was stable enough to take care of myself. And then I was housebound for a year. So didn't really work. Parents helped. Luckily I was a really smart guy who had low rent, and I didn't have a car payment, and I'd paid off my college debt at that point. And so I made some smart decisions that really helped me to keep my cost of living low. But then, yeah, I was housebound for a year. And a year later, I was medication free. I never got the surgeries that they told me I had to get. They told me I had to get my colon removed. Didn't do it. And I got myself off the painkillers, methotrexate, immunomodulator, Entyvio. I got myself off of Ambient, antibiotic, all of it. And I'd gotten rid of about 90% of my symptoms, and my colonoscopy was about 90% good. And they didn't know how I did it. They were like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That's what she said.
It's such an incredible story, and it's like, I'm so sorry that you and your family had to go through this at such a young age, because like 19 to 27, that's when you're supposed to be having fun and going out with your friends and doing all of these things, but you were suffering and almost dying in the hospital. And, for you to be all these years later now being able to help people, do you ever reflect on that and saying, as awful as that was to go through, it's led to me to where I am today to help thousands?
It's the only reason I have the audacity to come out here and say, no, you can do more. No, the doctors are missing the keys. No, you can heal this chronic issue, as severe and hard as it is, because I went through it, and I rarely meet a case that was more severe than me. So when I meet someone who's been sick for 20 years, even had 3 surgeries, I can relate like no one else could. And I just wanted to build what I didn't have. Every ND, every DC, every MD, all these different types of doctors I saw, they didn't have IBD. They didn't have IBS. They didn't specialize in it. They didn't have testimonies of being able to help other people out of it. They didn't have community. They didn't have any training on it. They didn't know the ins and outs of how biohacking might relate to someone with chronic urgency, chronic diarrhea, chronic inflammation, proctitis, microscopic colitis, strictures, fissures, fistulas, cetons. How does all this work? And I had a lot of those experiences. So everyone I met and all the money, we weren't just sitting around while I was going through that. And I wasn't sick the whole time from 19 to 27. I had moments where I was good. The first time I tried prednisone, it worked. First time I tried mesalamine, it worked. Yay, I'm back out there drinking alcohol with the boys, right? I'm doing it the very conventional way. And then I started studying natural medicine when I was about 24, 25. And then when I started working with my naturopath professors and all that, then 26, 27, that was the climatic moment. But I had been trying for years prior. So it took me years to really put all this together. This was not easy. This is the hardest thing I ever did. And I failed for years. I did not get quick results. It did not happen overnight. And me and my family probably spent over $50,000 before I got results. And we're not rich. We were from Virginia. We had a small house. I grew up, my house I was raised in was worth about $125,000 to give you perspective. Okay. Like this was extreme. So all of that, I believe God put that on me because now when I act and I try to create in that world, I have that experience. I believe for capitalism to work, we have to be conscious. We need more mission driven, more family owned, more heartfelt companies who are doing things of significance with integrity, with the authenticity, from a sense of trust. And so I'm not here to try to sell anyone or tell anyone or pitch anyone. I'm here to try to show you, hey, this is what you can do. This is what worked for me. And yes, I've worked with more people in the world, I think, than anyone in the world with IBD at this point. I don't think there's a doctor, clinic, coach, person in the world who's worked with more IBD, helped more people with IBD, and is specialized with IBD. I've got 2 naturopath doctors, 2 chiropractic doctors. I've got a clinical herbalist. I've got a mental health coach. I've got a registered nurse all on my team. We're global. I got people in Africa, India, Asia, Australia, and I got them in remission. I put out a testimony a week of reversing symptoms of IBD every single week. Is it easy? No. Is it a McDonald's drive-through? No. Is it the hardest thing you've ever done? Yes, but our team dedicates to it every week. We meet 4 times a week and talk cases, talk strategy, talk biohacking, talk colon healing therapies, parasite cleanses, liver cleanses, mold, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, epigenetics. Like we go at it. Katie, Cris know what I'm talking about. Like we go hard. And if you're good at this and you really do functional medicine and you're by yourself, good luck, because the conversations are never ending about what's going on. I mean, right now we've been talking a lot about the potential connection of Lyme and IBD and starting to build protocols around Lyme disease and IBD. And we're starting to build our own SEERS panel because no functional labs have a good blood panel for SEERS, where they really pull together and finding how to make it cost effective with the C4A panel or the MMP9 or the VEGF, and which ones we need to do, and understanding how COMT epigenetics can really affect people. Why are some of us in a moldy house, our body's freaking out, and then our brother, sister, or significant other is completely fine? These are real conversations. The same thing with gluten. So you could be reacting to the air just like someone's reacting to the food.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have a gluten intolerance. Well, I've got a Bastachy Botrytis and a black mold intolerance. So if I get around that, my body's freaking out. You're going, what did I eat? You didn't eat anything. You breathed it in. Mm-hmm. And then your body can't detox it. That's methylation problems. That's genetic issues. You can't get rid of it. So you got these mycotoxins sitting in your body for 20 years. And, for instance, we were working with a girl diagnosed with CRC, colorectal cancer, and ulcerative colitis. She had failed 4 biologics. Her calprotectin was stuck at 1,000. And she had already gotten rid of parabens in her health products. She had already gotten rid of the gluten and the dairy, and she was eating from the farm, and she was, working out. And her calprotectin was stuck at 8,900, which is, close to 11, 12x normal, standard values. And she couldn't get rid of her symptoms in the blood. The biggest answer I want to give you on that one is it wasn't that we were able to give her this special thing. It's that her body couldn't get rid of the toxins inside of it. She had eliminated toxins in her lifestyle, but her body couldn't release the toxins through her drainage pathways. 5 drainage pathways: lymphatic system, liver, kidneys, ability to sweat, ability to poop. Those aren't working. You ain't getting rid of toxins. You're going to stay inflamed. So that's really the mission here, Kitty. I know it's a long-winded answer, but it's like paying to purpose. My question was, how do I build what I needed? And there were 3 elements I needed. I needed someone who had IBD. It's really, it could be shameful to talk about poop and bowel movements and what it smelled like, what it looked like, how many times you go. I'm losing weight. Because there's enough shame already in my heart and spirit. Like I just need someone who can relate. Number 2 is I need someone who specializes. What I realize is these brilliant doctors, way smarter than me, still way smarter than me, but they saw everything. They saw POTS, they saw diabetes, they saw obesity, they saw depression. It's like, I need someone who specializes in IBS, IBD. Like how many cases? Because I need someone who's seen this type of case and that type of case. I need someone who's worked with a 7-year-old. I need someone need to work with someone who's a vegan, someone who has IBD, but also has endometriosis, or has IBD and also has psoriasis, and has IBD, but also has metabolic issues, or a poor functioning liver. We had someone sign up who had 2 liver transplants and IBD. That is extreme. That's very difficult. Like, what do you do with that? You can't put someone on curcumin who's had a liver transplant. It's one of my favorite things to use with IBD, ulcerative colitis, is curcumin. So it's like, okay, we got to really think this one. This is a chess match. This ain't checkers, guys. It's chess. And so that's That's what I want. And then 3 is a community. I know a lot of you hear this when you see people. It's like, where do I connect? And how do I connect with other people who have the same disease? Because, man, I was praying to meet other people with the same mission statement as me, the same passion to wake up and eat clean and get rid of gluten and check their gut Zoom or GI map and start studying candidiasis and parasites and biofilms and actually trying the protocols on themselves and see what's happening. Coffee enemas, all this stuff,
Yeah, Cris, his program and company not sound like a carbon copy of ours. Like everything he said, I'm like, this is exactly what we do, but with acne. And Cris, I know as
Yes.
soon as he said the virus that was hiding in his body, I knew Cris was like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Which one was you, Cris?
I'm a huge believer of this. I think autoimmunity is a hidden virus, period. That is just,
Okay.
that is, if I have not researched this, like in my spare time, which is not so spare, but this is what I do. I keep coming to things like I have Hashimoto's, so I have an autoimmune. Katie has celiac. So when you have an autoimmune, you don't really love to hear this is all you can do, because that means you're going to have the suffering with the good
You're talking to the wrong
times.
person. You're talking to the wrong. If they say this is all you can do, you're talking to the wrong person.
Oh, exactly, right? So this kind of sparks everybody's, motivation. This is really kind of what happened with Katie, what happened with myself. So I really look at it as how hidden viruses fit into the terrain. And then I go from there. So one of the major ones for, say, Hashimoto's is Epstein-Barr.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm also
EBV.
seeing is a lot of false positives on Lyme because of the mimicry with Epstein-Barr. So, like, that's just my geek wheelhouse, right? Obviously, I'm not chatting all this up in, acne. But, when I'm even teaching, so I teach for a nutrition school. When I'm teaching and they get me their first 2 courses, could you imagine having me your first 2 courses? Sweet goodness, just sit down, buckle up, put a helmet on, and let's go, right? Because that's what's happening. I right out the gate do not allow that inbox thinking. I can't handle it. I get bored, they get bored. It's just not a good thing, right? Even words like leaky gut. I always say to Katie, please, can we stop saying this word? Because this isn't a word. This is a cliche, right?
Mhm.
So it's these types of things. So I really not only really resonate with your story because I've been down 3 times with almost adrenal burnout because that's part of my HPA access, and it's just so fancy. And when you're laying there for 2 months and you cannot be with your family, and when I say cannot, it's not because it's not a choice. You physically can't move.
Yeah.
You are like bound to that bed, and going to the
Yeah.
bathroom is a big life decision, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
so I just love that you said that virus, and I love that you connected that because I'm like, you are like, like there, like I can't even explain it. Just melting my heart.
I saw her light up when you said virus. I was like, she's pumped about, well, not pumped you had it, but she's like, yes.
Oh, we could talk this whole thing about what I found with the viruses. I want to give you some nookies to check out, or some nuggets, I'll say, for the virus thing. But one thing I want to know for all the listeners, you're in the right place when people go from pain to purpose. When you look at putting your time, energy, money, the 3 currencies that you have in this world, look for people with a mission statement. Look for people who've gone through it themselves. Listen, doctors are brilliant. They're way smarter than us in a lot of ways, but man, if you have these issues, that's where you want to look. If you have Hashimoto's, if you have celiac, and you really need to figure out a balance of how to get happy and healthy at the same time, which is our core problem. Every time we try a diet, we get miserable. Every time we go get happy, we get sick. So it's like you got to bring in, get happy and healthy at the same time. Find people who are leading on that same path. Like I always try to say, if you're trying to go on a trail through the jungle, you don't go on the jungle trail with someone who's actually not been on that trail. Maybe they've done that one. But if they haven't done this one, I'm a little worried. You don't know what you're going to run into. And so that's, look for that, because that's where you're going to find integrity with your time, energy, and money, the 3 currencies we have. But the virus, talking about that. Okay, so really interesting. Do you know Dr. Armin in Germany?
Yes.
You know Dr. Armin? Okay, so Dr. Armin built us a customized IBD viral panel. So we tend to only use his viral panel in Germany. So all our US and Canadian clients cost a few bucks, but we send their blood to Germany to test.
I've done one of his tests, his EBV panel. sent it back to Germany, Armin
Awesome.
Labs.
Well, he's one of the very few people, especially for the price, because if you look at like Infecto Labs, I was
Not
working with
cheap.
some, not cheap, but
Nope.
when I checked out Infecto Labs here in the United States a little while ago, I was working with a guy, very, famous guy, big speaker, and it was like $2,000 for the same viruses. Because the viruses you're checking at Rupa Labs or you're checking here, they're not using ELISpot technology. ELISpot just means it's more sensitive, okay? So it's got better sensitivity and better specificity. Layman's terms, I can find the needle in the haystack better, and I can identify that it's actually a needle in the haystack better at 98, 99% accuracy, okay? So ELISpot technology too is he's checking the IgG, IgM, great, everyone does that, the IgA. See, the IgA antibody is a local mucosa reaction. So it could be local to the brain. It could be local to the gut lining. Okay, so certain enteroviruses can be causing inflammation in the GI tract through the IgA reaction. The 6 viruses that we check, CMV, EBV, HSV, VCV, varicella, Coxsackie, and echovirus. These are the 6 that we find most commonly are causing chronic inflammation with, gut GI, like IBD, IBS. Out of if we check 10 people in our program who, let's say they're diagnosed with IBD, we get a health history questionnaire, they come in and they decide to do this test, right? Costs some money because you got to get the blood, ship it to Germany.
It's a process.
I do a small version of it, like an EBV, CMV only, and one other for like $300-$400. If you get them all, it's like $850. We don't make profits on labs, so we just whatever, get it to you as cheap as possible, but it's still really expensive. So $800-$900. 4 out of 10 people we check have at least one active virus, about 40% that were diagnosed with IBD. So this is not something that's small. This is a large percentage of us have current active viral load. And I would say out of the 4 out of 10, I'm being nice in that estimate. It could easily be 6. 4 out of 10, let's say, about 3 out of 4 have more than one virus active. More than one. And I commonly see 4. We had one guy, so when I interviewed Dr. Armin, I did this. I found a guy I was working with severe ulcerative colitis. He had, he kept, no matter what he ate, no matter what he did, no matter what probiotics, it didn't matter. His colon was going nuts, blood, urgency, mucus, 20 Balbum stay. Because the viruses were active in his colon. His colon was freaking out until he got control of his immune system and the viruses. His body was going nuts. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. I don't care if you're carnivore. I don't care if you eat fruit all day. I don't care if you fast. Didn't matter. So we checked. So he went into remission. We checked his viral load. I had Dr. Armin look at it. He still had 4 active viruses in his viral load panel. Dr. Armin said, this guy's a ticking time bomb. He goes, one big stressful event in his life, this guy's going to freak. Literally 2 weeks later, he writes me. He's in Croatia. He writes me. I've been going through something hard with my kid. He's a power lifter. I've been lifting heavy. I'm back to 15 bloody bowel movements a day. I'm like, Dr. Armin literally called this. He literally called this because we didn't know he still had the active viruses until you got the test back. And I didn't even see that till we were checking with Dr. Armin because we did the interview around it with his consent, So I put him on immune boosters. I put him on antivirals, and immediately, like 3 weeks later, he's back in symptom-free. And I've seen that type of situation with viruses over 100 times where I've gotten people symptom-free using antivirals who were diagnosed Crohn's colitis. It's more predominant ulcerative colitis is what I've seen.
It's incredible how sneaky those hidden viruses can be. And they can go, if you don't go to the right person, it's never going to get found because they can really be sneaky and hide. And the labs that you're getting here in North America just aren't going to cut it for finding that viral load.
Yeah. Now, I have been looking at some research, Cris, around the connection of mold infection and chronic viral replication. And there's a lot of people, especially the mold community, is really big on this idea that mold toxicity is weakening the immune system, allowing for viral replication.
Mhm.
I have seen a connection with these people with these chronic multiple viruses. We're also finding some mold through like Dr. Andrew Campbell. We're also finding, the urine analysis, through Vibrant America or some of these other companies is good. But I'm the more I do Dr. Andrew Campbell's blood analysis on these mold, the more I'm seeing a connection. And also, if I can get someone deeply checking their house. Another little side note with mold is I almost never do open air tests anymore. I don't care if it's ERMI. For me, I almost always do only in-wall air cavity sampling. In-wall air cavity sampling to find mold.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a relationship. We've seen a lot of, even the practitioners we work with who get this, they have to stay on lifelong antivirals. And I take antivirals all the time. I've been taking antivirals for 10 years because chronic reactivation of viral loads been one of my hidden big root issues for severe like ulcerative colitis reactions, right? So when you know that, that's where you can build your plan. I'm sure you guys know this too, but when you're doing natural medicine, you're kind of building like a defense mechanism. The more you know your root cause, if something happens, Cris and Katie are not going to freak out because they go, I already have a Batman belt of protocol that if I hit a speed bump, I'm going to act. So the ability to heal yourself is not to eradicate adversity. A lot of us are listening and saying, what's the hidden thing that's going to make me perfect and walk on water for the rest of your life? You're thinking wrong about this. You're going to keep yourself in a state of trauma if you think you're going to be perfect. You cannot eradicate adversity, but you can defend against it. So your ability to be healed is the ability to respond to adversity. You have to be able to say something happened. I got stressed. I got mold exposure. I ate some bad food that I have an IgE true allergy to. I got COVID and my body freaks on COVID. Like if I get, COVID, my body can react a little bit more because I tend to get cross reaction. Like the way my body reacts to CMV can be very similar to COVID. I've seen other people who get the flu and their body freaks out, and it's like, well, they also freak out on EBV. So kind of knowing that, the more you know about your root issues, the more you can defend against them, which means when you're on vacation or you're traveling, it's more than just a diet. It's more than just meditation. It's being able to have a plan. So when I travel, I always know I bring things that I know are a problem for me. Like I always bring strong antivirals. And so I love something called Hatunia. And I got this again from Dr. Armin. He's really close with NutriMedics. And what I love about NutriMedics is they have 1 or 2 ingredient dropper form herbs that are not multi-strain. So it's a lot easier with kids. It's a lot easier with people who herx easy, who are really sensitive and just need one-off ingredients. I'm dealing with someone severe. I'm using one-off ingredients and I'm usually doing droppers so I can micro titrate up.
Yeah.
So Hatunia, and then Cemento, which is another form of cat's claw, but it has this thing called active TOA in it, which I find it works a little bit better. And then that Cemento has more clinical research around reducing rheumatoid arthritis and acting like an immunomodulator. Because a Hatunia and Cemento, a different form of cat's claw, are natural immunomodulators. Mm-hmm. So one of the things you want to do when you're dealing with autoimmune disease is you want to find natural immunomodulators, not immunosuppressants. So Remicade is an immunosuppressant, right? 6-MP methotrexate is a drug immunomodulator, but there are natural immunomodulators like Andographis, or N-acetylglucosamine, or Hatunia, or Cemento. And so what you can do is you can help balance the immune system. Did you know stem cells are immunomodulators? Exosomes are immunomodulators. So that's just a little hint at how you can kind of keep your body strong. Because me and Cris both have this perpetuity of a severe autoimmune reaction in different ways. So we have to be aware our body can freak to certain things. And there's deeper root issues to that. There's always deeper root issues. There's always something you can do.
I just want to add to that because what happens is when you have an autoimmune, you can go for blood labs and they come back stellar. They just look great. And hey, you might not have had a great blood lab in a decade. And you see this one and you're like, oh, but your body can be shunting different things. It's really molecular mimicry. So when our viral proteins, if they can structurally resemble human tissues, remember, it's not just about those blood labs. It's Dane, you're saying, oh, the blood labs. These aren't the same typical ones that we're looking at, right? We're looking for that inflammatory.
They're not the Walmart ones.
Yeah.
Walmart, guys, wrap your head around this. It's Walmart testing. The doctors are using Walmart testing.
I'm going to start using that because I'm like, in Canada, the magnesium they test for in the preliminary CBC, you are dead if you register as deficient. I'm like, and you're worried about me asking for zinc because you don't want to give that to me every 3 years, right? It is crazy.
The world is changing. The world is changing so much. We are literally putting together our own labs right now and trying to build systems where people can just send it into their own insurance. It's getting weird. Canada's harder to do this. US, we're starting to get even more openings around this. There are ways online. You can go and start building your own labs. Like magnesium, you should be checking the RBC mag if you're going to be checking that, right? And, vitamin D, making sure you're getting the 25OH or checking, different levels of viral panel or like the antibody. Like we have people getting diagnosed with IBD and the doctor's even running an IBD antibody panel. And it's based on a colonoscopy. Here's what you don't know about colonoscopies and endoscopies. It is a visual subjective assessment. 3 people are looking at a TV screen, just watching it live and going, oh, I think that's Crohn's. You think it's Crohn's? Yeah, it's Crohn's. Okay, it's Crohn's. That's
That's
the
legit. That is so accurate.
like sometimes
Even your
yes,
endoscopy, same. Unless
yes.
it's a
Now,
unless it's full-on
yes.
ulcer with severities, but even the mucosal barrier in an endoscopy can be subjective. It is nuts.
Yeah. But you got to, so they got to take samples and look for microscopic inflammation. So yes, a lot of good doctors will do that, but not all of them. I'm not saying all doctors are doing this, but the more you know, the more you really say. If someone wants to diagnose you, get a second opinion and make sure you're looking at it. So with IBD, it needs to be an IBD panel. Okay. The PANCA, the ASCA, anti-Saccharomyces cerevisiae antibodies. They're going to be checking the antibodies. They should be doing a microscopic test to actually look under the microscope of what that tissue is saying, do an endoscopy and colonoscopy. And honestly, if they're not, the future, I'll tell you right now what it's going to be. If they're not doing a stool analysis, I don't really look at it. A colonoscopy doesn't tell you hardly anything. A colonoscopy is great to tell you if you're inflamed or not. Great. I knew I was inflamed. I was bleeding. It can tell you if you have certain forms of dysplasia or cancer. Great. Okay. We can't do that as well in a gut tumor. But if I check a gut tumor, specifically by Vibrant America, that's my best one I love. I got 6 forms of inflammation. The EAP, eosinophil activation protein, can tell me is more linked to allergies and parasites. The MMP9 is more linked to mold and Sears exposure. This is right in a non-invasive stool analysis at home.
Yep.
Then I have calprotectin, okay, which is broad spectrum IBD is linked with IBD, your calprotectin inflammatory marker, okay, predominantly in the colon. And so I've got all these, and then I've got pH level, I've got digestion, I've got fat malabsorption, I've got short-chain fatty acids, I've got beneficial bacteria, I've got a high sensitivity specificity for parasites, viral load. There was one time I did a gut tumor, they actually found CMV in my stool. I said, how about that? There has never been a stool analysis in the history of doing stool analysis. I've done hundreds, though they've ever found viral load. I'm like, you just got a big check mark with me, Vibrant America. That was amazing. And they're
I
all
love
doing,
that you said that. I love that you said that because I always say, why isn't it kind of peculiar how, that parasitic like never shows up, but you have an autoimmune and you're trying to show me that you don't have any parasitic activities like these things.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I mean, I understand they also hide, right? They're clever. They do their thing.
You can't find parasites.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I mean, they can be as long as 2-3 feet too. Like, sorry to gross everybody out.
And you tested negative.
And you're negative. No, you're not.
we would, when we did parasite cleanses, because the great thing about all our practitioners, and we call them coaches legally, so what they do is we all kind of run protocol and talk about it. So every single person who's done a parasite cleanse on our team has pooped out some kind of monsters. We'll even stick the monsters in the lab kit and send it back to them. Nothing. But the reason is because once you start killing a parasite, it starts to biodegrade. So you can't even see its genetic code, so you can't even test positive for it. If you test even a little bit positive for Blastocystis hominis or Cyclospora, I'm thinking you just saw the tip of the iceberg and there's 90% of it's underwater. Parasites, I never take a lab seriously. There's a company called Para Wellness that manually looks under the microscope and doesn't use a machine for it, that I find a little bit better at finding parasites. But I don't put too much weight on it. When I interviewed a guy, you should have him on if you haven't, Dr. Paul Anderson. He's a biofilm expert. He does a really good job of kind of breaking down what biofilms are, because parasites are the mother of biofilms. And they predominantly live in the small intestine. And what you find in a stool analysis is predominantly the large intestine. Stool is made in the large intestine. So what's in your duodenum is probably not going to show up that well in a stool analysis. That's why I only put so much weight on parasites and even H. pylori.
Yep.
Because I had an actress in New York I was working with. She had done all the things. She had severe ulcerations that wouldn't let her get pregnant without lifelong biologics, which she did not want really in the natural medicine, because she had such ulcerations in her ileum. So I tested negative for H. pylori. I said, BS. Ulcerations almost always equal H. pylori. I treated her with mastic gum, a little licorice root, a little BPC 157. I increased her probiotics. I saw she was low in certain strains of lactobacillus. She'd already been fasting, intermittent fasting, gluten-free, dairy-free for years. She'd already done all the things. 4 months later, her CT scan didn't just show 20% better, 30% better. It showed normal. They couldn't even find signs of Crohn's disease. They couldn't find signs. She calls me crying. I'm like, oh God, she's going to have to get surgery. What's wrong? Nope. They couldn't even find it. She's crying on the phone. And now she's got 2 kids, still symptom-free with Crohn's disease, no medications. Now, I'm not saying it's easy like that. It's not easy like that, guys. That's a half-court shot. Wow, I made it. Okay? It doesn't always work that way. But my question is, how many of these chronic diagnoses are just infections, are just what I call infectious colitis? Because there's a percentage of people we're going to work with where we're going to get results like that. And everyone's going to go, oh, great, can I get results like that? It's like, no, probably
Yes,
not.
they do. They say that.
I always say,
They
I'm
all
like,
expect it.
20%. I'm like 1 out of 5, 20%. I can Barry Bonds it. I can literally hit a grand slam. 1 out of 5 people come in, I'm going to get them better. They're going to feel better in 2 weeks.
100%.
Because there's just an infection and no one's seeing it. Like, if you're not looking at it, it's just the doctors can't tell the difference between you had a terrible case of Campylobacter, or I had a guy who they wanted to remove his colon next week. He was in LA, really successful guy, and he had E to the 7th candidiasis. Like, it was like, it's right there. You have massive candida overgrowth. And he was having 20 bloody bowel movements a day, so much pain, nothing was working. Biologics, his immune system was so strong, the biologics couldn't calm down the reaction. So I started treating him for candida with simple stuff, oregano, with high natural carvacrol, right? Oregano, binders, liver support. Now, candida has massive amount of toxic load that if your liver ain't prepared, you are going to feel way worse with any kind of candida or fungal, okay? So I'm starting to naturally treat him. It was like 3 months later, his calprotectin went from a 3,500 down to a 40. He decided to take himself off Remicade, took himself off 6-MP, got off the prednisone, 1 to 2 normal bowel movements a day, no inflammation, no medication, no surgery. Now, it's not going to happen for everyone, but how many of these cases is it just right there? So I just want to say this. Doctors never told me I had candida. I had myself massive candida overgrowth. No wonder I was dying. Doctors never told me I had CMV. Okay, it was one doctor in Florida who stained for it out of the 15 colonoscopies I did, who found it, and then we had to treat it, right? But now I know. If I get really bad, it's almost always a reactivation of some virus. Doctors never told me that or looked at my genetics and know that I don't process mold well. If I get around large amounts of mold, I don't feel good. I get low energy, I get brain fog, I get inflammation to my body. Doctors never told me I had H. pylori. They said I had gastritis. Remember that? They said you had ulcerative colitis with gastritis. No, the H. pylori had overgrown. It was causing low stomach acid and ulcerations. I can guarantee you, if you have IBS and IBD, you have some sort of digestion malfunction. You have
100%.
most likely low digestion, most likely a poor functioning liver where you have stagnant bile. And because of that, you have a low functioning pancreas, and your pancreas cannot break down the macronutrients to be absorbed properly in the small intestine. Now you're getting undigested foods in the colon. If you're pooping out undigested food, I can almost guarantee you a 20 to 30% decrease in symptoms in about 2 weeks. Because I can just immediately work on your digestion. I can immediately shift your diet to make it more bioavailable and reduce inflammatory response, specifically in the colon.
Yeah.
Like, this is stuff, because I had it, I'm looking at it, and we build protocol around it, and you can do it from home.
And just by doing that, you can calm down the immune system so it doesn't want to go and attack this virus, because this whole concept of your body goes and attacks its own tissues. No, it doesn't. It is not built like that. It is not designed like that. Your body, you get a cut, what happens? It heals. You break a bone, it heals. That's the body's natural response. So I keep trying to educate people and say, why would your body want to attack itself? Or is it attacking something that it's supposed to attack, like a virus, right? Different concepts.
And there is a spectrum of that, because some of our bodies are reacting so heavily. It's like you need prednisone. You need maybe a biologic for a while. You need to be on, a massive dose of anti-inflammatories and all of these things. So there's no perfect way to answer it. So your answer, everyone listening, it's a game of chess. So I say that for you to know what your next move is, you have to be aware and have clear understanding of what your opponent's last move was. So I don't know what I'm going to do with you until I look at what your opponent just did. So the opponent, let's say, is IBS, Crohn's disease, endometriosis, chronic skin, hair, skin, and nail issues. So if I say, okay, well, the first thing I want to do is I want to take back control of the microbiome. I'm going to put you on single strain isolated probiotics, starting with Bifido, because a lot of people are going to herx with histamine issues and SIBO issues on lactobacillus.
Yep.
So I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to build a plan. I'm going to move my bishop. And then let's see how your body responds. So if you herx on that, if you get low energy, if you feel better, if you lose a few pounds, but your energy goes up, that's all information that I'm going to use in your success tracker to understand how your body's responding to these variables. Now, if you try to make 5 moves at once, you're going to get overwhelmed. So that's where you need time.
Mhm.
You've got to understand your variables. If you're really sick, you should only be moving about 3 variables at a time. If you're not so sick and you just got sick, you could probably do 6 or 7. But your variables have to be low risk, high reward. See, now this is how you win. This is real. This is how you become a master chess player. You got to understand what variables have low risk, high reward. So if I told Cris, I said, hey, Cris, let's change these variables. Let's go increase our curcumin. Let's increase our CO2 extracted fish oil. Let's put it on a digestive enzyme that we think you're going to be okay with. Let's take out these 3 different foods and let's make sure to do an Epsom salt bath 3 times a week at 104 degrees. She might go, okay, because all those variables are low risk, right? Low risk and could be high reward. But if I said, hey, Cris, let's put you on Mimosa pudica. Let's do a castor oil pack through the night, 5 days a week. Let's put you on Interphase, biofilm disruptor, plus high dose NAC and TUDCA.
I'm in. At this point, I'm in, right? No. No.
Cris would come back to you the next week like, did you just try to kill me?
Yeah,
was
we're not
this an
friends.
assassination attempt?
We are not friends at that point.
Did you just try to murder me? This was, do you work for the CIA? What is going on?
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? So there's levels to this. So if you don't understand the strength of these variables and these moves, and the greatest thing I want to give you this, that when you're trying to heal, the number one thing you're getting when you work with someone is not symptom relief. I know that looks like the golden goose. The number one thing is self-empowerment. We're trying to turn you into Batman, okay? You got to have your Batman belt. Like, you know, Batman in all the comic books, he's flinging this and flinging that. Like, here's your binders. Here's your anti-inflammatories. Here's your detox. Here's your colon healing therapy. Here's your supportive supplements that help, you know, your phase 1, phase 2 liver and help your metabolics work better and empower mitochondria and help with your adrenals so that you can regulate your own cortisol levels. Like that, those are like, it's training. The biggest mistake we did is we delegated our health. We should be teaching this in middle school. Like, everyone listening, can you even give me a simple definition of what fiber is? Because if you can't, that's how the school system failed us. We delegated the understanding of what it is to be a healthy human. And that's why we're eating a bunch of colorful packages. Realize that your great-grandfather didn't even open a package. There was no such thing as a package. There was no opening of a box and opening of a Dorito package. There's no such thing. So we have delegated our health. We've been destroyed through our air, food, and water. And now it's very overwhelming to go back and say, all of this is fake and all of this is poisonous. And I have no idea how my body works. I don't know how the gut works. I don't understand the biology. I don't understand the relationship with the kidneys and the liver. I don't know what the lymphatic system is. You know, I don't even know what mitochondria is. And so I can see Cris getting excited because that's what she teaches and that's what she's going on here is like, you want to get self-empowered. If you're going to be healthy for 50 years, you've got to simplify success. You don't have to become a doctor, but you have to be able to simplify what you need to thrive. And you've got to understand these things to thrive. And the most important thing you have is your health. And connect and get connected with people who are integral, who have a mission, who are committed to the things you need. You need a community who is trying to do what you're doing. You need people who specialize in doing what you're doing. You need people who've gone through and successfully been able to get happy and healthy with what you're trying to do. And you need to get empowered. Don't just find the answer, build your answer, okay? There is no generic answer. I don't care if you're vegan or you're carnivore. Customize it to your needs. One of the greatest things I did is I just cherry-picked from FODMAP diet. I cherry-picked from GAPS. I cherry-picked from specific carbohydrate. I cherry-picked from fasting or intermittent fasting. I cherry-picked from ketosis and raw vegan. I found a value. I teach something. I built something called food philosophy. So I help people eliminate diets and build lifestyles. And I help people assess the risk of any food at any time. We don't cheat, we celebrate. At any moment, I actually have found a massively valued principle from a famous diet and I teach it. Like you can give me any famous diet and I'll tell you what's good about it and I'll tell you what I leave. So I've literally extracted one thing, like taken that. Like when I interviewed Dr. Gundry, I was like, what he just said about grains is genius, but I'm going to leave what he said about fruit. I'm going to leave what he said about fruit. But what he just said about the lectins and the phytic acid and polysaccharides, and the same thing with specific carbohydrate diet. Like every famous diet is basically saying there's a problem with polysaccharides.
100% right there.
Every famous diet.
Every
famous diet. So it's like, you just got to be Sherlock Holmes. It's like everyone's agreeing on something. There's something going on with these grains that we have to watch out for. Okay.
Yes. Well, I call them little pieces of shit.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So you can use that if you want.
Okay. Well, it also stands for lipopolysaccharides,
Yes.
which is a release from small intestine bacteria overgrowth.
100%.
And so you got to know about that too, because that's what's giving you metabolic endotoxemia. So your liver's getting overwhelmed. And a lot of people don't know this, but 30% of people with IBD end up getting some form of chronic liver disease. 30% clinically. So when you have IBD and microbiome issues and chronic inflammation, the liver is having to deal with that and it's getting overwhelmed. And the number one reason, I think, is endotoxins and what's called lipopolysaccharides. So yeah, I mean, this is just 10, 12 years of what's that? And I didn't know that. And I tried that and it didn't work. Hey, how did these 2,000, 3,000 people deal with this and find this and do that and interview that and do that? And it's just like, but I bring it all back to just IBD. So it's not like, what's the value of hyperbaric oxygen therapy? It's how does it help people with IBD? How does it help people with fistulas, fissures? How does it help people with SEERS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, which I think is kind of like the same thing as IBD, right? The doctors keep giving us labels of you have chronic inflammation and we don't know what causes it. There's like 20 different diseases that's the answer. It's like, what is IBD? Well, son, IBD is IDK, in all honesty.
Yeah. I have a client right now who, has been dealing with like severe gut issues, severe pain, and has gone and done all of the tests, the scans, the endoscopies, like you name it, she's done it. And everyone has come back normal. And the doctor's like, nope, you're healthy. There's nothing wrong. And it's so frustrating when people are trying to find the answers and they're met with, you're nothing wrong. And they start to feel
How long has she been
crazy.
sick? How many years?
Just about a year. So
she's new.
I have, because she's new. I have I don't want to give away too much about her case, but
yes, of course.
I understand when it happened, what the trigger was. And I know in my gut that there is a deeper pathogen that's hanging out. So that's our next step that we're going to be
100%.
Yeah, you got it. When you're seeing a bunch of fog in front of you and nothing's coming back normal, looking at a variety of lab work is really good. But you know what? When I'm feeling like I don't know what to do next, I really focus on just start removing toxins. Even if I don't know, they've got heavy metals or this, that, and the other. Like I'm trying to find a safe way I can work on the liver. A lot of people are going to hurt on any kind of pushing of the liver or lymphatics. So can I handle binders? Can I get mitochondria support in there? Can I get them sweating? Can I get maybe just start with a Epsom salt bath, lymphatic brushing, rebounding, and then castor oil packs? Can they handle a little bit of glycine and NAC to up glutathione production? If it is viral, I'm just going to put them on immunoboosters because a lot of people don't realize this. You don't always have to use antivirals. If you just boost the immune system, the body can start killing that for you. You need to strengthen NK cells. So, can I get them on higher dose of, one is IV nutrition. Can I go get 10, 15 grams of vitamin C and glutathione and zinc? Get it right into the bloodstream intravenously. Can I get them on Angostrol? I actually find Angostrol works pretty well. That's a side, it's like $40 at an IV nutrition therapy. You can actually get that and it helps to deactivate viruses. How do they handle monolaurin? Monolaurin's got clinical research to deactivate all those viruses. Lysines more, I find it worked with the herpes simplex more, but I think monolaurin, the clinical research.
I live on lysine.
I figured you did. Every antiviral person I meet, they're like lysine cat's claw, baby. Let's go.
If I am feeling a little bit under the weather, just, that hue where you're like, is something brewing?
Yeah.
I'm like a mouse going for that cheese. I grab my lysine and my body just goes, oh girl, yes, right?
Good.
Yes.
So you really do well with it. Awesome.
I do, but I also look at my arginine foods because we have to balance. But essentially, I think we're all saying the same thing. Lower the total antigen load, support the barrier, calm the nervous system, strengthen the terrain gradually while being in a supportive community, because that support, that stress resiliency right there. And the body can't do much unless we kind of set that foundation.
Yeah. I found things that have helped this. The more diverse my microbiome, the better I handle the viral load replication I've noticed over the years.
Yep.
And I've noticed I don't need as many antivirals as I did before, but certain things like treating mold, I definitely think has helped. I hurts whenever I go on my itraconazole Sporanox. I tend to get a little bit of reaction, which is interesting. But, and then for me, it's like, I love a product called Immunotome Plus. Now, some of us with mold issues don't do well with mushrooms because it has, those,
properties.
Maitake, shiitake mushrooms in there. So you got to be careful with mushrooms and fungal reaction. But I do really well with that astragalus, the ashwagandha, the mushrooms, and then IV nutrition. It's more expensive, but I feel like it knocks it out. If I'm not feeling good, I'm like, oh, something's starting to brew in my body. I get that IV, immediately helps me. But I have to get the high dose vitamin C. I feel like that really works. I find NAC does a wonderful job also of just helping my body move things. It helps with mucus buildup during the winter flu, because NAC has been shown to reduce mucus reactions in the lungs and esophagus. So if you're getting all that sinus, NAC can be great for that. But yeah, boost the immune system. And I love to work on the Hatunia. I use Monolaurin, Hatunia, Cemento, and Tacuna. So those are my favorites. I put them all in water. They're just droppers. So I don't take 500 caps a day. And I just throw those in a little hot water, and those do pretty well. But so this is it. This is the Batman belt we're talking about, and I just want to also, I know it's overwhelming for a lot of people listening, but think of it this way. What if you weren't sick? And what if we were just talking about longevity?
Yep.
What if you just wanted to add 10 years onto your life?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to let you in a little secret. It'd be the exact same conversation.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between trying to live an extra 10 years and eliminating symptoms from autoimmune disease? It's the same thing. You talk to a life longevity expert. Longevity expert, you know what you can do? You're going to spend more money on labs and you're going to take way more supplements, okay? Because you're trying to be proactive about it. Oh, I'm going to need more alpha lipoic acid. I need to take more of these things. My epigenetic tests and my micronutrient panel showed this, that, and the other. So, like if you look at Dave Asprey and Brian Johnson, they're taking 100 capsules a day, right? So
tons of capsules.
100 capsules.
I get exhausted.
It's crazy. So, but it's all about trying to live to 120. But if you look at it, what are they really trying to do? They're trying to empower mitochondria. They're trying to clean the cells. They're trying to get rid of toxic load. See, there's one thing to eliminate toxins in your air, food, and water, but it's another thing to get rid of the toxins in your body. Because once the problem with all these man-made chemicals, our human biology does not have the ability to get rid of them and process them. That's cigarette smoke and that's mycotoxins, okay, are two of the biggest ones. So your body can't get rid of this stuff, and it's in the air. Okay, so once it's in, it's stuck. So a lot of longevity is, through autophagy. You're trying to break down cells. Like autophagy is really getting rid of old cells that are overtoxic. It's just breaking down old cells and getting the fresh new cells, like fresh hair. You get a haircut because you want to get rid of the old stuff and let the fresh stuff grow. That's autophagy. That's fasting. That's longevity. So, cancer cells, senescent cells are old dead cells that can't properly be metabolized or be recycled. That's cancer.
Yep.
So it's the same thing here. It's like what you're trying to do is I'm actually preparing you for longevity. So I want to get you excited with the statement that you're going to take the worst thing that ever happened to you and it's going to become the best thing that ever happened to you, because you are going to build the foundation of living your best life and reducing disease for the next 50 years. If you had to be sick for 4 or 5 years to be less sick for the next 50, would you not make that trade at the end of your life?
100%. And we tell our clients this all the time. And I'm notorious for always saying, I'm so grateful I had acne because it made me take notice of my health. And I have so many clients who are like, Katie, when you said that, I wanted to egg your house because why could you ever be grateful you had acne? And they're like, but now that we worked through it, I get it. I understand. I'm so grateful because I know that I'm reducing my risk of disease later on.
That is why I get on my hands and knees and I say, thank you, Jesus, for this experience. In the meantime, I was angry at everyone. I hated everyone. And yes, it's a lot easier when hindsight's always 20/20. But
Absolutely.
if you can start getting into that gratitude now and that peace now, and then start saying, I've decided that forget disease. I want to be a healthy person. I'm going to live that way. I'm going to date that way. I'm going to socialize that way. I'm going to live in that town that way. This is who I am. Your life is asking you to rise like a phoenix. Let the ashes go. You're not trying to get the old you. You're building the new, better you. Forget the old you. I used the whole time, can I just be who I used to be before I got sick? That was literally what I was praying for. No. He's dead. You are now bigger, faster, stronger, more empowered, more valuable, more God-fearing, more in servitude than ever before. I don't care for who I was before I was sick. I love who I am way better now. And that is what your life is asking for you. I can eat whatever I want. I don't want to poison myself. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke anything anymore. Not because I can't, because I don't want to. I have no interest in that. I only surround myself with people who are happier and healthier than me. And I'm only influenced by people who are happier and healthier than me. I don't care how rich you are. If you're miserable and out of shape and sick, who cares how much of this fiat currency you got in your little bank account? All right? Because you feel like crap on your private jet. Who cares? I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. And I want to be influenced, and I want to be around people who have the same moral code. And I don't care to poison myself. And American food, most of it is poison.
Absolutely. I think everything you've said, Cris and I are just nodding along like, yep, 100%. We should probably all be best friends after this because I think our philosophy on this is identical. So Dane, if people want to learn more about what you do, want to come check you out, where can they do that?
Yeah, we're all over the internet. You can find us anywhere on major social medias or Crohn's Colitis Lifestyle. We're predominantly on YouTube and Instagram. And, if you've got IBD and you need help, we're here to serve. But, I know Katie and Cris can take care of you and stuff like that. So I just thank them for allowing them to have me on today. And I hope I gave everyone some takeaways on what you can do and why. I understand that healing is possible. Find that team who you think you could really connect with and grow with and become Batman, become self-empowered, become your own best doctor, become the CEO of your health, and healing will happen. It's just a matter of time.
Well, Dane, thank you so much. I think you're probably one of the most passionate practitioners we've had on our show in 4 seasons, and we absolutely love what you do, and we appreciate your time today. So thank you so much. All right, everybody, I'm going to put all of Dane's information in the show notes. Go and check him out. He's a wealth of knowledge, as you can tell, and we will see you next week on another episode of Keep It Clear.